Let's get to know the characters today. Hi everyone, it's Lizefaile and welcome to this video presentation of the artifact rules again. Today, we're going to take a look at the characters and in particular 4 of them. The first is the merchant, and without the merchant, you can't use the other characters: the engineer, the terraformer and the astrologer. Let's start with the merchant. The merchant is an action that you add, as usual, to your stock of actions. With the merchant, you add an additional resource, which is coins. Here, for the example, I'll be using metal parts from Lucky Duck. Thanks to them, this is a prototype. But of course, you'll have specific coins with values of 1, 5, and 10. Each player takes 10 coins at the start of the game, and we'll put some items on the merchant board right from the start. The first player in the pecking order will do this. He'll roll 3 dice, which he can do with as he pleases. 1 die is used to determine which item he's going to add to the merchant board. Another die, the abscissa, another die, the ordinate. For example, he'll choose 1 and thus a celerity coefficient, which he'll add in 3s and 4s, i.e. abscissa 3, coordinate 4. He'll repeat this operation to make other elements appear on the merchant board, and we'll do this for each management phase. Next, we'll make the famous roll of the dice to choose alpha and beta. We'll use the same examples as in the previous video, alpha 1, beta 3. Then we'll look at the ruler on the merchant board. This ruler has a few indications. The large numbers define the price of the items placed on the board. For example, this GOD costs 2 coins and this coefficient costs 3 coins. And at the top are alpha and beta. This means that the merchant's ruler will be rotated by 1 or 2 notches. If alpha is higher than beta by 1 notch, if alpha is less than beta, another notch. But if alpha is equal to beta, then it will move 2 notches. And so it changes the value of the coins in the market. And you'll see that if alpha is greater than beta, you'll see a P1. And vice versa if alpha is less than beta. This means that the price of coins will also vary with a P1 or 1. For example, here, alpha is less than 3. We move the ruler to one side and the value of the parts is reduced by 1. So the celerity coefficient that cost 3 should have cost 4. Here, it is reduced by 1, so it costs 3. When you perform a merchant action with one of your tokens, you'll pay for your gem as usual and you'll be able to perform 4 trades within it. First, buy a coin on the merchant board. You spend a number of coins equal to the cost of the item and collect the item from your reserve board. Alternatively, you can sell one of your items and place it on the merchant board. You can place it wherever you like, but as in Sudoku, you can't have the same element in the same row or column, and you earn the number of coins corresponding to where you place the element. Lastly, I can buy an item from the general stockpile at a cost of 10 coins, or as usual if alpha is greater than beta, plus 1 if alpha is less than beta, minus 1. So right now, it would cost me 9 coins to buy any item from the reserve. That's pretty expensive, I must say. And so, you can make 4 trade exchanges among these 3 possibilities. Buy something from the general supply at a cost of 10 coins or more or less, buy an item from the merchant board, or sell items from the merchant board. The merchant is simply a way to get items in a slightly different way or to earn a lot of money for other actions I'll tell you about next. One last thing, at the end of a confrontation phase, all items on the edge of the merchant board are removed. You're going to say anyway after the confrontation phase, it's all over, except that if you do several confrontation phases well, you'll be able to return to the merchant board and potentially the change of pieces will change everything. So much for the merchant I've explained. This will be useful for the other actions. We'll now move on to the next character, the engineer. When you take the engineer, you place her in a new action, and the engineer, like all the other characters, cannot exist without the merchant because it's the merchant who makes the currency appear in the game. So, without currency, you can't play with other characters. The engineer will add this, technologies. Can you feel it coming or not? Yes. Technologies are simply items you'll be able to buy during the management phase, which will add very special capabilities to your machine. We'll place the technology stack next to the board and reveal 6 of them. Technologies that concern modules not in the current game are placed face down in the river, taking up a space in the river. When you take an engineer action, you'll be able to buy a technology. As usual, we spend our alchemical current gem to define that we're doing the action, and we'll spend a value of 10 coins to acquire a technology. To say I've acquired a technology, I'll take one of my colored energy cubes and place it on the technology I'm buying. In this video, I'm showing you a prototype. So the tiles aren't in the final design, but the final design looks more like this. You can see that there are various elements, including a number. This is the technology in question. There are just over 50 of them. So there's an appendix that defines what each technology does. And you see on each edge potentially colors, often blue, but sometimes red. When I acquire a technology, well, other players can acquire it too. That's the cool thing about it. The red player can decide to buy the same technology as me by spending the 10 coins. And so we'll both benefit from this bonus. For each new management phase, we'll discard as many technology tiles from the river as the die discarded when we assigned alpha and beta. You know, the tiles we've bought aren't discarded. They're just set aside. You can no longer interact with them, but that's to say that you own them, and you put 6 visible tiles back into the river. Technology tiles sometimes have upgrades. Upgrades are defined by these blue bars, and each upgrade does a specific thing per technology. Sometimes you can even have technologies that have 3 upgrades. Sounds pretty crazy. It sounds pretty complicated. It's not, because there aren't 10,000 technologies you're going to see in one game, and you have the appendix to inform you about what the enhancements do and the technology itself. An enhancement supports a technology in one way or another, and each technology has its own specific enhancements. Another possibility is to have these red lines you see here. This is where you place cubes for technologies that are not permanent. Permanent technologies have an infinity symbol. Some, however, have a number. This is the maximum number of times you can use the technology, and so you can add cubes to recover activations of this technology. To do this, you'll spend 2 coins. So to acquire the technology, you spend 10 coins. To add an activation on this kind of technology, you have to spend 2 extra coins per additional activation you want to pay for, always with a maximum per technology. It's the same extra payment to get an upgrade, i.e. 2 coins to get an upgrade. In the same way, you take one of your cubes and place it in an upgrade corner. Technologies come in all shapes and sizes. Some technologies are more for the confrontation phase, others are more for the management phase. Really, there's plenty to do, and that's what's so crazy, is that there's a big possibility ultimately with technologies. There are decoys or holograms. There's the possibility of placing 2 dice on your heart, so you can give energy both orthogonally and diagonally. You can place a token on one of your own activation tokens, which is not normally possible. Everything possible. Let's move on to the next character. To continue, we have the Terraformer. As usual, we add action to our possibilities. The Terraformer will add these tiles, turret tiles and beacon tiles. The principle of terraforming is to place turrets or beacons on the board. When you perform a Terraformer action, you have 3 possibilities, all with the same cost, i.e., as usual, the alchemical current gem to perform your action and the alpha value as the cost in coins. And now you can build elements on the board. These include turrets, beacons, walls, and even traps. The difference is that these traps will be yours, so they won't touch you. You can summon a turret or beacon anywhere on the terrain by spending the corresponding resources. Turrets are placed with a celerity coefficient mixed with a geode, so you need to have them in your reserve to be able to spend them. Walls are placed by spending 2 pieces of light armor. Traps can be placed by spending 2 cannons. However, they cannot be placed in the starting zone, and beacons are placed using a translation needle and a geode. This defines the type of turret or beacon. These different elements have 25 stamina points except for the walls, which have 15 stamina points, so they're life points somewhere. By placing this element and its type with it, you place a cube of your color on it, which defines that it belongs to you, and they have a few special features. I'll start with the traps, as they have very few specifics. First of all, if you own it, the trap doesn't touch you, and when you draw one of the ballistic cards, you draw 2 and choose which one to activate. This makes the traps a little more threatening. Turrets and beacons are activated during the confrontation phase. Between 2 actions, the player owning the turret will have to spend an energy cube without taking an action to activate it. What does a turret do? Well, it shoots with unlimited range in the directions it's pointed at, either orthogonally or diagonally, differently depending on how you've placed it, and it will inflict 3 dice plus doubled elemental damage on artifacts in the path of the shot. So let's say I make a roll of the dice. I end up with 6 plus 5 plus 2, which gives us 13 plus elemental damage. So let's say I roll 1 plus 2, I go to plus 4. 13 plus 4, 17 points of damage, that's not bad. So turrets need to be placed very strategically and activated at the right moment. And the cube you place to activate the turret won't come back until you've recovered your cubes with the energy regeneration action. That's for turrets. But beacons are used to boost your artifact. To activate a beacon, as usual, you spend energy cubes. Except here, the beacon's range is defined by the number of cubes you spend. So 3 cubes, 3 ranges. And these beacons will give you different bonuses, which you can see here, depending on the element with which you've created your beacon. And likewise, the energy cubes will be blocked until you perform the energy regeneration action. This can be a real pain. Another possible action with the Terraformer: instead of building constructions, appear before the others in the arena, wherever you want. In the starting zones, of course. You take your artifact, choose a side where there isn't already an artifact, and place it exactly where you want it, in the orientation you want. Simple, effective. The last possible action with the Terraformer is to place an energy cube on the Terraformer tile. Now you're thinking, what's the point? We're just losing cubes? Well, when the confrontation phase arrives, every cube on the Terraformer tile can be activated. Clockwise, 1 cube is removed each time. So I remove a cube, another player removes a cube, and so on until there are none left. And with each cube removed, we do one of 3 things. Either we redeploy 2 walls, or we move a neutral trap or transport device by 2 squares, or we move our artifact by 2 squares, even inside the arena, i.e. outside the starting zone. From one cube to another, however, you can't perform the same action twice. You can't move your artifact twice, you can't redeploy 2 walls twice, and so on. Terraforming is a way of zoning the arena, either preventing opponents from advancing or blocking them in one place. It can be a real pain, and that's what we like about it. Let's move on to the last character in this video. The last character in this video is the Astrologer. You add him to your action possibilities as usual, and you're going to use these famous pretty illustrations. The idea of the Astrologer is that you have a pile on the side where you'll reveal 3 of these beautiful illustrations, and these illustrations can be activated. I'll explain how. The Astrologer is going to add even more elements. These are the auguries. Augurs are gems, but they are the player's color. In a 2-player game, we'll give each player 4. In a 3-player game, 4 per player. In a 4-player game, 3 per player. And we reveal 3 visible tiles at the start of each management phase. So some tiles can be covered. In turn order, each player will place one of these augurs or colored gems around the calendarium. It doesn't matter which tile it is. I can place it on a management phase, a building phase, a resting phase, a confrontation phase, it doesn't matter. And each player will place a gem, then another gem, then another, until everyone has placed their auguries. These auguries can be used in a variety of ways. You can discard them at any time during the resting, preparation, confrontation, or building phase, and each has its own bonus. If you discard one, i.e. remove it from the calendarium during the confrontation phase, you gain 2 energy cubes. If you do so during the preparation phase, you add this augury to your pot of alchemical current gems. That's why they have the same shape, but not the same color. If you do it during a rest phase, you get an extra addendum. And if he does it during a building phase, he'll be able to move an element, transport device, wall, whatever. But what's interesting, of course, is when you perform the Astrologer action. When you perform the Astrologer action, as usual, you spend 1 gem of alchemical current. You spend 2 coins, and from that moment on, you'll be able to trigger an astral conjunction. It's a crazy word for something that's actually quite simple. Look at the pretty shapes. They're very, very pretty. But above all, you can see that they're linked together always by 4 dots. Well, if you place it on top of the calendarium, you'll notice that the dots join where you've placed auguries. If you activate one of the visible conjunctions, and it matches, whether your augury does or not, well, an effect will be triggered. Each astral conjunction has its own specificity. Some conjunctions win coins, while others lose them. Some remove activation tokens. And this depends on whether or not you've taken part in the famous conjunction. Let's say I do this conjunction called the Abyss of Emptiness. It removes an activation token, our workers, as it were, from each player who didn't participate in the astral conjunction in terms of augury. Well, it's not for the whole game, it's just for the current management phase, but still, it stings. And every astral conjunction works in this way, i.e., those who have activated the astral conjunction and are taking part in it get a bonus, while the others often either get nothing or are left out in the cold. But those who take part, even though they haven't done the action, i.e., they're in the astral conjunction just because they're linked to the lines, well, that's a match, they'll still get a bonus, like not losing an activation token. What's more, when doing the activation, you have the option, either before or after triggering the astral conjunction, of moving one of your augurs one square. It's not much, but it allows you to anticipate other conjunctions or, on the contrary, activate one if you do it before or after. And it adds variety to all our games, but there are still 2 episodes to go, so there's still plenty to discover in Artifact. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're ever interested in Artifact, you can already sign up on Artifact's upcoming Kickstarter page, top right and in the description. See you next time. Until then, I say to you,
See you.